Tonight, allow yourself to leave behind the noise of the modern world and step into the peaceful warmth of ancient Greece. As you settle comfortably and close your eyes, we will spend time with Hestia, the quiet goddess of the hearth, whose gentle presence was felt in every home and every sacred flame. There is no battle to win and no mystery to solve, only the steady comfort of fire, family, and calm traditions that endured for centuries. In the earliest age of the world, after the rule of the ancient Titans had begun, Cronus and Rhea became the parents of a new generation of divine children. Their firstborn was Hestia, a quiet goddess whose presence would one day bring warmth, peace, and gentle order to every sacred hearth. Before temples filled the hills of Greece, before cities gathered around glowing fires, Hestia entered existence in a time when the universe itself still settled into its enduring rhythms. Her story began not with great battles, but with the simple arrival of new life among the immortal family. Hestia was the eldest daughter of Cronus and Rhea, and therefore the first child born to the ruling Titan couple. Ancient poets remembered her as the oldest among the Olympian siblings by birth. Although later stories would celebrate louder and more dramatic gods, Hestia's place at the beginning of the family remained constant. Her calm nature reflected something older than glory. She represented steadiness rather than conquest, reminding listeners that lasting peace often begins long before remarkable deeds are remembered. Yet the household of Cronus was shadowed by a troubling prophecy. It had been foretold that one of his own children would one day overthrow him, just as he himself had once displaced his father, Uranus. Fear settled deeply into Cronus's thoughts. Rather than welcoming each child with confidence, he allowed anxiety to shape every decision. The peaceful beginning of Hestia's life unfolded beneath this silent weight, showing how even immortal rulers could be guided by fear instead of wisdom. When Hestia was born, Cronus acted according to his fear. To prevent the prophecy from coming true, he swallowed his firstborn child. Ancient Greek tradition tells this unusual story not as an ending, but as part of the strange cycle of divine generations. Hestia disappeared from the visible world, yet she remained alive within her immortal father. The image is symbolic and mythical, expressing the lengths to which fear may reach when power is treasured above trust. After Hestia came Demeter, then Hera, followed by Hades and Poseidon. One after another, each child met the same fate. Cronus repeated his fearful choice, believing that no son or daughter could challenge him if none remained free. Rhea watched this sorrow unfold as each birth brought joy only for a brief moment before silence returned. The family of the Titans grew, yet its youngest generation remained hidden from the world. Although these events sound distant from ordinary life, Greek mythology often used extraordinary images to explore familiar emotions. The tale of Cronus speaks of fear, control, and the desire to hold tightly to power. Against this background, Hestia's gentle character would later become even more meaningful. She belonged to a family marked by conflict, yet she herself would come to represent stability, welcome, and peaceful continuity in every household that honored her. Rhea carried quiet determination despite her sorrow. She continued to care for the future even when each child seemed beyond her reach. Ancient storytellers often described her as patient and enduring, qualities that echoed through later generations of gods. Hestia, though unseen for a time, remained connected to her mother's hope. The bond between parent and child was never erased, even within the strange patterns of mythic destiny. Because Hestia was born first, she also occupied a unique place in later tradition. After the events that eventually freed the children of Cronus, she became both the eldest by birth and, in a symbolic sense, the last to emerge again into the world. Greek writers sometimes reflected on this beautiful symmetry, seeing balance where others noticed only paradox. It suited a goddess whose presence quietly restored harmony wherever she was honored. Unlike many divine figures, Hestia's earliest story contains very little action of her own. Instead, she is introduced through the choices of others. This gentle absence is fitting. Her importance was never measured by dramatic adventures. Rather, she would become known through stillness, constancy, and faithful presence. Even before her familiar role beside the sacred fire, the foundations of her character were already taking shape within the oldest stories of the gods. The first generation of children born to Cronus represented the beginning of a new divine family whose influence would eventually reach every corner of Greek myth. Hestia stood at the head of these siblings by birth, followed by gods and goddesses who would later govern harvests, marriage, the sea, and the underworld. Together they formed a remarkable lineage, even though their earliest years remained hidden from the open world. Ancient audiences hearing this tale already knew that divine time moved differently from human experience. Years, generations, and cosmic changes unfolded with quiet patience. Hestia's story reflects this slow rhythm. She did not rush toward greatness, nor did she seek recognition. Instead, her place within mythology unfolded gradually, much like a steady fire that grows brighter without sudden movement or restless display. Greek religion would later honor Hestia before and after many offerings to the other Olympians. That lasting respect can be traced back to these earliest family stories. As the first child born to Re, she carried a quiet dignity that remained with her throughout every later tradition. Even when other gods filled poems with adventure, Hestia retained her peaceful place at the beginning of the divine household. The household of Cronus may have begun with uncertainty, yet Hestia's future identity was never shaped by fear alone. In time, she would become associated with welcome, sacred hospitality, and the comforting warmth found at the center of every home. These gentle qualities make her introduction especially meaningful. From the oldest child of a troubled family, emerged one of the calmest and most trusted goddesses of the Greek world. So the story opens with Hestia's birth among the first children of Cronus and Re, in an age when the world itself was still finding its lasting order. Her beginning was quiet, marked by patience rather than triumph. Before she became the guardian of every sacred hearth, she was simply the eldest child of an immortal family, carrying within her the promise of peace that would gently endure through the generations of Greek myth. As the Olympian order settled after the great struggles between generations, each god gradually found a place of honor. Some ruled the seas, others the skies, the harvest, or the hidden world below. Hestia's place was different. Rather than seeking distant kingdoms or displays of authority, she remained close to the sacred hearth. In every home, every temple, and every welcoming fire, her quiet presence offered steadiness instead of spectacle. The warmth of the flame became her lasting symbol, suggesting that peace could gently support the world without demanding applause or admiration. Ancient storytellers often described Hestia as calm where others became restless. She rarely appeared in tales of rivalry, revenge, or dramatic journeys. Instead, her gift was constancy. The fire she guarded needed gentle care rather than force. It reminded people that lasting comfort grows through patience and daily attention. Families gathered around the hearth to share food, tell stories, and welcome strangers. In this simple rhythm, Hestia quietly shaped ordinary life, proving that enduring kindness could be just as valuable as heroic victories remembered in song. One well-known tradition tells that both Apollo and Poseidon admired Hestia and wished to marry her. Each was a powerful Olympian, respected across heaven and earth. Yet Hestia chose another path entirely. She asked Zeus to allow her to remain forever unmarried, preserving her independence and her peaceful calling. Zeus accepted her request and honored her decision. Rather than becoming defined by alliances or royal marriages, Hestia devoted herself completely to the sacred flame that belonged equally to every household and sanctuary. This choice reflected an important theme in Greek mythology. Divine greatness did not always require conquest or command over others. Hestia possessed immense dignity precisely because she declined ambitions that might have distracted her from her purpose. Her strength appeared through quiet certainty rather than loud declarations. By remaining faithful to her own nature, she became an example of harmony. The peaceful center of every home depended upon the gentle flame she protected, and that humble responsibility reached farther than many glorious adventures. The ancient Greeks honored Hestia before and after many ceremonies. At sacrifices, the first offering often belonged to her, and the final blessing returned to her as well. This custom reflected the belief that every sacred action should begin and end with stability. Even when other gods received elaborate celebrations, Hestia quietly remained the steady foundation beneath them. Her role resembled the unseen stones supporting a beautiful temple, essential despite attracting little attention from passing visitors. Unlike the changing winds or crashing waves, the hearth invited people to pause. Its steady glow encouraged conversation, reflection, and shared meals after long journeys. Hestia represented this peaceful rhythm. Her presence reminded families that the greatest treasures were often found not in distant lands but within familiar walls. Every carefully tended fire became a symbol of belonging, where generations gathered together beneath the same comforting warmth through changing seasons and passing years. Because Hestia rarely entered conflicts, myths mention her less frequently than many Olympians. Yet her absence from dramatic stories should not be mistaken for weakness. Her influence was constant rather than occasional. Every settlement depended upon a communal hearth, and every household relied upon its own fire. Wherever people cooked, rested, welcomed guests, or honored the gods, Hestia's quiet blessing was believed to remain nearby, offering gentle continuity through the ordinary moments that shaped daily life. Greek hospitality, known as xenia, valued the respectful treatment of guests and strangers. The hearth naturally became part of this tradition because newcomers were welcomed near its warmth. Hestia therefore represented not only domestic comfort but also generosity. Her fire belonged to everyone invited inside with peaceful intentions. In this way, the goddess encouraged trust between households and travelers, quietly strengthening communities through simple acts of welcome rather than displays of force. Even kings and rulers recognized the importance of Hestia's domain. Palaces required hearths just as humble cottages did. Wealth changed many things, but every home depended upon warmth, nourishment, and gathering together. Hestia's quiet authority crossed every boundary of status. Her sacred flame belonged equally to ordinary families and powerful leaders, reminding all that peace begins with shared human needs before it reaches great cities or distant kingdoms. Some traditions describe a public hearth burning continuously within the heart of a city. From this flame, colonists could carry fire to establish new settlements, linking distant communities with their place of origin. Hestia's presence traveled not through conquest, but through carefully protected embers. The image suggested continuity rather than expansion by force. Every new fire carried memory, belonging, and respect for the peaceful traditions that had been carefully preserved across generations. In comparison with gods who wielded thunderbolts, tridents, or shining weapons, Hestia carried no famous instrument of battle. Her symbol was simply the living fire itself. Yet fire at the hearth was not destructive. It baked bread, warmed homes, and illuminated quiet evenings. This gentle flame represented civilization carefully maintained. Through it, Hestia revealed that power could also appear as protection, nourishment, and faithful care offered day after day. The calm character of Hestia makes her stories especially restful to remember. Her mythology moves slowly, without great storms or endless struggles. Instead, it celebrates balance, routine, and quiet devotion. These gentle qualities may explain why ancient people trusted her with the beginning of ceremonies and the center of domestic life. Stability itself became something sacred, worthy of gratitude and careful attention. As centuries passed, many myths continued to celebrate dazzling adventures, while Hestia remained quietly constant in the background. Her steady presence resembled a flame that asks for little yet offers much in return. She neither competed nor demanded admiration. Instead, she accepted her place with calm confidence. Through that enduring example, the goddess demonstrated that inner peace may shine with a lasting light that never needs to overpower anyone else. Remembering Hestia means remembering that not every form of greatness announces itself with noise. Some gifts appear through warmth, patience, and faithful care repeated each day. Her mythology gently invites the mind towards stillness, where quiet strength becomes visible. The sacred hearth continues to symbolize welcome, safety, and enduring peace, preserving the memory of the Olympian goddess who freely chose harmony over power and found lasting honor in that peaceful decision. In every Greek home, whether humble or grand, the hearth rested quietly at the center of daily life. Its gentle fire warmed the room, cooked simple meals, and offered light after sunset. More than a practical place, it was understood as the dwelling of Hestia, whose peaceful presence blessed the household without demanding attention. Families gathered nearby to share food, stories, and quiet moments together. The steady flame reminded them that comfort often came not from great adventures, but from familiar routines repeated with care. Through ordinary days, Hestia remained a silent guardian of warmth, stability, and lasting peace. Unlike many Olympian gods, Hestia was rarely imagined wandering across mountains or seas. Her place remained constant, close to the fire that never willingly went cold. This stillness reflected her nature. She represented permanence rather than movement, quiet devotion rather than dramatic change. As generations passed through the same home, the hearth continued to burn for children, parents, and grandparents alike. The flame became a living thread connecting family memories across time. Its calm glow suggested that what endures often speaks with the gentlest voice. Every morning, the first tasks of the household often unfolded beside the hearth. Bread was baked, water was warmed, and the day's rhythm slowly began. In the evening, the same fire welcomed everyone back again. Hestia's presence gently enclosed both the beginning and ending of each day. Without grand ceremonies, ordinary routines became quiet acts of gratitude. The familiar flame transformed daily necessities into peaceful rituals that honored continuity, reminding every member of the household that simple constancy could be deeply sacred. The hearth also carried a symbolic meaning that reached beyond warmth alone. It represented the unity of everyone living beneath one roof. As long as the fire remained cared for, the household itself was considered whole. Hestia's gift was not excitement but harmony, encouraging patience, cooperation, and mutual respect. Around the calm fire, disagreements softened, meals were shared, and visitors found welcome. The quiet center of the house gently shaped the spirit of everyone who gathered near its steady light. When a new home was established, families sometimes carried fire from an existing hearth to light the new one. This simple act symbolized continuity rather than separation. The familiar flame linked generations and reminded people that every household belonged to a longer story. Hestia's blessing traveled with the fire itself, quietly crossing from one dwelling into another. Through this peaceful tradition, the warmth of the past continued to live within the present, offering comfort without interruption. Ancient writers often described hospitality as an important virtue, and the hearth stood at its center. A traveler entering a home might first encounter the welcoming warmth of its fire before hearing many words. Hestia's presence encouraged generosity without display. Food, shelter, and rest reflected respect for both guest and host. The glowing hearth became a peaceful reminder that kindness often begins with simple acts performed sincerely. Even strangers could briefly share in the quiet security protected by the sacred flame. Offerings to Hestia were often modest. A portion of food, a little wine, or fragrant incense could be dedicated to her before other gods received their share. This custom reflected her honored place at the beginning of ritual life. Without demanding elaborate ceremonies, she quietly received gratitude through everyday abundance. The first offering acknowledged that every meal and every gathering depended upon the enduring gift of the hearth's warmth. Her blessings were woven gently into ordinary existence. Although magnificent temples honored many Olympians, every home became, in its own way, a sanctuary for Hestia. The household hearth required no towering columns or shining statues to express reverence. Its quiet flame was enough. Within its gentle light, daily life unfolded with dignity and calm. Children learned familiar customs, elders shared remembered stories, and each passing season left its quiet mark. The sacred did not always appear in distant places. Sometimes it rested peacefully beside the family fire. The peaceful fire also reflected balance. It was carefully tended, never allowed to grow dangerously wild nor fade through neglect. This gentle moderation echoed Hestia's own character. She embodied calm restraint, encouraging measured living rather than excess. The steady flame quietly demonstrated that lasting strength often depends upon thoughtful care. By preserving the fire day after day, families practiced patience without realizing that ordinary responsibility itself carried sacred meaning. In Greek imagination, the hearth was more than a place where wood became flame. It was the heart of domestic order, where daily life found its quiet rhythm. Hestia's influence appeared not through miracles but through stability itself. The regular glow of the fire offered reassurance that another peaceful evening had arrived. Familiar sounds, familiar meals, and familiar surroundings became gifts worthy of appreciation. Her mythology gently celebrated the extraordinary value hidden within ordinary moments. The sacred flame reminded each generation that peace must be cared for with quiet consistency. Fire required attention, but never harshness. A few carefully placed pieces of wood allowed it to continue through the night. In much the same way, harmony within a household depended upon countless small acts of kindness. Hestia became the gentle symbol of these unseen efforts, honoring those who patiently preserved warmth, comfort, and belonging for everyone around them. As seasons changed outside, the hearth remained a reassuring constant. Winter winds, spring rains, summer heat, and autumn harvests all passed, while the household fire quietly continued its steady work. Hestia represented this dependable rhythm. Her presence did not erase hardship, but offered a peaceful place from which life could be faced with calm resolve. The enduring flame gently suggested that stability often grows from faithful repetition, rather than sudden transformation. The importance of Hestia reached beyond individual families. Every home containing a sacred hearth reflected the larger values of Greek society, where community began with the household itself. The peaceful order found around one fire extended outward through neighborhoods and cities. By protecting the smallest center of daily life, Hestia quietly supported the strength of the whole community. Her mythology reminds us that lasting civilizations are built upon countless peaceful homes, cared for with quiet devotion. Through all the stories that survive from ancient Greece, Hestia remains one of the calmest divine figures. Her sacred hearth asked for little beyond care, gratitude, and peaceful attention. Its warm light invited reflection instead of excitement, contentment instead of ambition. Within that quiet circle of fire, generations found comfort at the close of each day. The gentle flame endured as a lasting symbol that the deepest forms of strength are often quiet, constant, and patiently shared. Among the 12 Olympian gods, Hestia held a place unlike any other. While many of her divine relatives became known through dramatic adventures, contests, and journeys, Hestia remained peaceful and constant. She represented the sacred fire that quietly warmed every home and every temple. Her influence reached across the Greek world, not through displays of power, but through the gentle rhythm of daily life. Every shared meal, every welcoming hearth, and every carefully tended flame reflected something of her calm presence. She was respected not because she sought attention, but because her quiet stability allowed families and communities to flourish together. Hestia was the eldest child of Cronus and Rhea, born before her brothers and sisters. According to the familiar myth, Cronus swallowed each of his children shortly after birth, fearing they would one day overthrow him. Since Hestia was born first, she was also the first to be swallowed. Later, when Zeus compelled Cronus to release his children, Hestia emerged before the others. In this gentle way, ancient storytellers sometimes described her as being both the first and the last among the children of Cronus, linking her with beginnings and endings alike. Although she belonged fully among the Olympians, Hestia rarely appeared in tales of conflict. The mountain home of the gods echoed with celebrations, disagreements, and changing fortunes. Yet Hestia remained a symbol of calm balance. Rather than joining rivalries, she preserved harmony. Her quiet nature reminded listeners that not every form of greatness required victory or applause. Some gifts could be offered silently, becoming so familiar and dependable that people noticed them only when they were absent. In this way, Hestia became the quiet center around which many other stories gently turned. The Greeks believed that every sacrifice to the gods began and ended with an offering to Hestia. Her sacred fire connected the human world with the divine, making every ritual complete. Before prayers rose toward Zeus or gifts honored another deity, respect was first shown to the quiet goddess of the hearth. This tradition reflected the belief that order began with the home and with the carefully tended flame. Even the grandest ceremonies rested upon this simple foundation of warmth, steadiness, and peaceful devotion. Unlike many Olympians, Hestia never became closely associated with distant adventures or legendary battles. Her place was always near the sacred fire, where people gathered in safety and friendship. Ancient households often imagined her presence beside the central hearth, quietly watching over ordinary moments, preparing food, welcoming visitors, or sitting together after sunset all carried a gentle connection to her divine care. Through these familiar customs, Hestia remained deeply woven into everyday life without asking for recognition beyond the peaceful glow of the fire. Several ancient writers tell that both Poseidon and Apollo wished to marry Hestia. She declined each proposal with calm determination and instead vowed to remain forever unmarried. Zeus accepted this promise and honored her decision, granting her lasting respect among the gods. Her choice reflected independence rather than loneliness. Free from the rivalries that often accompanied divine relationships, Hestia devoted herself entirely to the sacred hearth. Her quiet promise became another reason she was admired for steadiness, self-control, and peaceful purpose. Some later traditions suggest that Hestia willingly gave her seat among the 12 Olympians to Dionysus. This gentle exchange allowed harmony to remain within the divine family, avoiding disagreement over the number of honored places. Even in these accounts, Hestia did not lose her importance. Her sacred role remained unchanged, and the eternal hearth continued to symbolize the stability of both homes and temples. Whether counted among the 12 or quietly standing beyond the number, her presence remained constant in Greek religious life. Unlike gods whose symbols often included weapons or powerful animals, Hestia was represented most simply by the flame itself. Fire, carefully protected rather than wildly burning, expressed everything she represented. Its warmth gathered families together during cool evenings. Its light made darkness feel less uncertain. Its steady glow suggested continuity across generations. Because the hearth fire required patient care every day, it reflected the gentle responsibilities that held households together through ordinary acts of kindness and attention. Public buildings and city hearths also belonged to Hestia's care. The central fire of a community represented unity among its people. When new colonies were founded, settlers sometimes carried a flame from the mother city's sacred hearth to light another in their new home. In this symbolic way, Hestia connected distant places without conflict or conquest. A small flame became a peaceful reminder that shared traditions could travel across the sea while preserving a sense of belonging. Poets rarely placed Hestia at the center of dramatic myths because her strength was expressed through constancy instead of change. She did not need long journeys to reveal her character. Every day repeated her quiet purpose. This gentle repetition may explain why she feels different from many other Olympians. Her stories are less about surprising events and more about enduring presence. Like the steady rhythm of breathing or the dependable return of evening, her importance rested in what remained faithful over time. Greek families likely experienced Hestia less as a distant goddess and more as a comforting presence woven into daily customs. Lighting the household fire, preparing bread, or gathering together beneath one roof naturally reflected her influence. These familiar acts required no grand temple and no heroic achievement. Instead, they reminded people that peace often grows through ordinary habits repeated with care. Hestia became a quiet symbol of home itself, offering calm rather than excitement. Even the gods, whose stories often celebrated extraordinary deeds, relied upon the idea that every gathering needed a peaceful center. Hestia represented that center. Without warmth, welcome, and order, even magnificent halls would feel empty. Her quiet role balanced the bold personalities surrounding her. Ancient listeners could imagine Olympus not only as a place of divine splendor, but also as a home sustained by the same gentle principles that guided human households. As centuries passed, Hestia remained one of the most respected figures in Greek religion, despite appearing less often in surviving myths. Her influence endured through rituals, customs, and the familiar image of the protected flame. This lasting devotion reminds modern readers that ancient faith was shaped not only by legendary adventures, but also by peaceful routines. The smallest daily gestures could carry sacred meaning when performed with gratitude and quiet attention. Remembering Hestia among the Olympian gods invites a slower view of Greek mythology. Alongside thunder, storms, heroic quests, and distant seas stood a goddess whose greatest gift was stillness. She asked for no triumph over others, only the careful tending of warmth, welcome, and shared life. Through the gentle image of the hearth, Hestia quietly held together the beginning and ending of countless days, becoming one of the most enduring symbols of peace in the ancient Greek imagination. In every Greek city, the quiet presence of Hestia was honored before celebrations, debates, or sacrifices began. Her sacred fire rested within the heart of temples, offering a gentle reminder that every community depended upon warmth, peace, and shared belonging. Unlike the bright flashes of storms or the crashing force of the sea, her gift was constant. The flame glowed through ordinary days as faithfully as during festivals, asking for little while giving comfort to all. Its soft light suggested that lasting strength often grows from steady care rather than dramatic displays. The public hearth stood as more than a place for fire. It symbolized the living spirit of the city itself. Magistrates, travelers, and honored guests could gather nearby beneath its peaceful glow, where the warmth represented hospitality and shared responsibility. Every citizen knew that the fire belonged to everyone and to no single household alone. Through changing seasons and generations, the gentle flame quietly expressed the hope that harmony could continue even as people, leaders, and fortunes slowly changed around it. When a new colony was founded across the sea, tradition often called for a small portion of the sacred fire to be carried from the mother city. Carefully protected throughout the voyage, the flame connected distant settlements with the place from which they had begun. Even after long journeys across unfamiliar waters, the glowing ember reminded settlers that they carried familiar customs and memories with them. In this quiet ritual, Hestia's presence became a bridge between old homes and new beginnings. Within temples dedicated to many different gods, Hestia's fire often remained at the center. Worshippers could honor Zeus, Athena, Apollo, or Demeter, yet the gentle hearth quietly welcomed every offering before attention turned elsewhere. Her role reflected balance rather than rivalry. She did not seek to outshine the other Olympians. Instead, she provided the peaceful foundation upon which every sacred ceremony could unfold with calm order and respectful devotion. Ancient writers sometimes described Hestia as remaining peacefully at home, while other gods traveled, quarreled, or intervened in mortal affairs. This stillness gave her a unique place among the Olympians. While myths often celebrated bold adventures, Hestia represented continuity that endured without fanfare. Her sacred flame needed no triumph over monsters or victories in battle. It simply continued to burn day after day, offering reassurance through its quiet persistence. The tending of sacred fires required attentive care rather than dramatic effort. Fresh fuel was added, ashes were managed, and the flame was protected from neglect. These gentle acts reflected the deeper lesson associated with Hestia. Communities flourished through regular kindness, thoughtful responsibility, and patient devotion to everyday duties. The mythology surrounding her quietly suggested that civilization itself rested upon countless peaceful actions, repeated faithfully over many years. Even during times of uncertainty, the continued burning of the civic hearth symbolized endurance. Seasons changed, rulers came and went, yet the steady light reminded people that their shared identity reached beyond any single lifetime. Hestia's flame became a gentle thread connecting ancestors with descendants, preserving a sense of continuity that could survive both joyful celebrations and difficult seasons with equal quiet dignity. Unlike shrines placed upon lonely mountain peaks or beside rushing rivers, the hearth belonged close to daily life. It stood where people gathered to speak, prepare food, celebrate marriages, and welcome newborn children. The divine presence associated with Hestia, therefore, remained intertwined with ordinary moments. Her sacred fire quietly suggested that holiness could be found not only in extraordinary places, but also within the peaceful rhythm of familiar routines. Greek poets rarely described Hestia with elaborate adventures because her importance was already understood through presence rather than action. The absence of dramatic stories did not diminish her significance. Instead, it reflected the quiet certainty that some foundations need no constant attention to remain essential. Like the steady warmth of a hearth, her influence was felt most clearly when it continued without interruption. Many rituals began and ended with offerings to Hestia, acknowledging that every undertaking rested upon peaceful beginnings and peaceful conclusions. This simple pattern framed religious life with quiet balance. Before prayers rose to other deities, the gentle goddess of the hearth received respectful recognition. In this way, the sacred flame marked both the opening and the completion of ceremonies with calm and measured grace. The fire itself became a symbol of invisible continuity. Though flames constantly changed shape, their light appeared unbroken to those who watched patiently. This gentle image suited Hestia perfectly. The living fire renewed itself moment by moment while remaining recognizably the same, much as families and cities slowly changed across generations, while preserving shared traditions that linked past, present, and future together. Ancient Greek religion often valued proper order, and Hestia quietly represented that principle without command or force. Her place at the center of the hearth reflected stability rather than authority. Others might govern the skies, seas, harvests, or wisdom. Yet her calm presence gently reminded worshippers that every great achievement ultimately depended upon a peaceful place from which life could begin and safely return. As daylight faded beyond temple walls, the sacred flame continued to glow with gentle constancy. Its warm light softened the coolness of evening and quietly expressed the enduring hope that homes, families, and cities could remain united through mutual care. Hestia's mythology invites attention not toward spectacle, but toward the quiet strength found in simple acts faithfully preserved across the passage of time. In remembering Hestia, the ancient Greeks honored the peaceful center that allowed every household and every city to endure. Her eternal flame required neither loud celebration nor grand monuments to express its meaning. It simply burned with calm patience, offering warmth without demand and light without pride. Across countless ordinary days, that quiet fire became one of the most enduring symbols of stability, welcome, and lasting harmony in Greek religious tradition. As dawn spread a pale glow across the hills, the first warmth inside many Greek homes came not from the rising sun but from the hearth. Its gentle fire quietly marked the beginning of another ordinary day. The hearth offered heat for cooking, light during dim mornings, and a comforting center where family life naturally gathered. Although humble in appearance, this steady flame carried deep meaning. It represented continuity, hospitality, and the quiet blessing associated with Hestia, whose presence was understood through calm order rather than dramatic displays. Every peaceful morning reflected her enduring place within the household. Before preparing bread or warming water, many households offered a small portion of food, wine, or fragrant oil to the sacred fire. These gifts were modest, reflecting gratitude instead of grandeur. Unlike offerings made to gods of storms or victory, those for Hestia belonged to familiar routines repeated over countless generations. They required no spectacle. The simple rhythm of daily devotion quietly connected ordinary families with divine tradition. In these peaceful moments, The sacred and the practical blended so naturally that neither seemed separate from the other. Meals slowly took shape around the warmth of the hearth. Grain became bread, olives accompanied simple dishes, and fragrant herbs filled the air with gentle scents. The fire transformed humble ingredients into nourishing food, supporting both body and household. Ancient Greeks recognized this quiet miracle each day, understanding that steady care mattered as much as abundance. Hestia's influence appeared not in dramatic feasts alone, but also in modest family meals prepared with patience. Her sacred fire quietly reminded everyone that daily life itself could become an expression of reverence. Children learned many customs while sitting near the hearth. Stories passed from one generation to another found a natural home beside the calm firelight. Elders shared memories, family history, and traditional values without hurry. The gentle crackling of burning wood accompanied these conversations like a soft companion. Hestia, who seldom appeared in adventurous myths, remained deeply present in these quiet acts of teaching and remembrance. Through peaceful repetition, families preserved both their heritage and their sense of belonging. Visitors entering a Greek home often approached the atmosphere shaped by the hearth before anything else. Hospitality carried sacred importance, and welcoming strangers reflected both social custom and religious duty. Sharing warmth, food, and shelter honored values that reached beyond personal kindness. Hestia's sacred flame symbolized the safety offered within the household. A guest who rested peacefully near the fire experienced not only comfort, but also participation in an ancient tradition that celebrated generosity with quiet dignity. Even when daily work called family members into fields, workshops, or nearby markets, the hearth remained behind as the silent heart of the home. Someone often tended the fire carefully so its flame would continue burning. Allowing it to fade unnecessarily could symbolize interruption rather than simple inconvenience. The enduring fire represented stability through changing seasons and daily routines. While people traveled through the world outside, Hestia's gentle presence remained where home patiently waited for their return. The household hearth reflected larger sacred fires maintained within cities. Temples and public buildings often preserved flames connected with communal identity, linking private homes to the wider community. In this way, the peaceful fire within one dwelling echoed the enduring life of the entire polis. Hestia united these different spaces without distinction. Whether in a modest cottage or an important civic sanctuary, the same quiet symbolism remained. The sacred flame represented continuity, shared belonging, and lasting harmony. When new households formed through marriage, the symbolism of the hearth accompanied this important transition. The creation of a new home meant establishing a new center of domestic life. The sacred fire represented permanence rather than sudden change. Families understood that lasting households depended upon patience, cooperation, and mutual care expressed through ordinary routines. Hestia quietly blessed these beginnings, not through dramatic intervention, but through the enduring promise contained within a well-tended hearth. Travelers who founded distant colonies sometimes carried fire from the mother city's sacred hearth. This tradition symbolically connected old homes with new settlements across the Mediterranean. Even when landscapes changed, the familiar flame represented continuity with ancestral traditions. Hestia's influence therefore stretched beyond individual houses into the broader story of Greek expansion. A single carefully protected ember became a quiet reminder that home could accompany people wherever they journeyed, preserving memory across great distances. As afternoon light softened, the hearth continued serving everyday needs without drawing attention to itself. Water warmed gently, evening meals slowly cooked, and familiar routines unfolded at an unhurried pace. Unlike gods associated with thunder or heroic battle, Hestia remained inseparable from peaceful repetition. Her importance grew precisely because her presence blended so naturally into daily existence. Every calm household rhythm quietly affirmed the enduring value of steadiness over spectacle. Smoke rising through the roof opening drifted into the evening sky, carrying the subtle signs of domestic life. Across villages and cities alike, countless quiet fires marked homes where ordinary people prepared for another peaceful night. Each hearth burned independently, yet together they formed an invisible network of shared tradition. Hestia's sacred influence required no towering monument. It lived within these countless small flames that gently sustained communities day after day. As darkness settled outside, families often gathered once more beside the comforting warmth of the fire. Shadows flickered softly across stone walls while conversation gradually became quieter. The steady flame offered reassurance against the cool night and symbolized the lasting stability of home. Hestia remained present not as a distant ruler, but as the peaceful guardian of familiar routines. Her quiet divinity reflected the simple comfort found in returning each evening to a place of belonging. Unlike many Olympian gods whose myths described rivalry, journeys, or dramatic transformations, Hestia's stories emphasized constancy. Her calm nature reflected the qualities expected of the sacred hearth itself. Fire could blaze fiercely, yet within the home it was carefully tended, controlled, and life-giving. Ancient Greeks admired this balance between strength and gentleness. The enduring flame quietly demonstrated that stability often carried its own quiet form of power. Through countless ordinary mornings and peaceful evenings, the household hearth remained one of the most familiar sacred places in ancient Greece. It asked for little attention while giving warmth, nourishment, comfort, and continuity in return. Hestia's quiet presence flowed through these simple moments with remarkable consistency. Her mythology reminds us that not every divine story centers upon heroic adventure. Sometimes the deepest forms of sacredness are found in the calm rhythm of everyday life, gently sustained by a faithful and enduring flame. Unlike many Olympian deities, Hestia inspired rituals that asked for little beyond steady attention and peaceful intention. Her presence was honored through the warmth of the household hearth, where daily life quietly unfolded. Each morning, the first small flame could be greeted with gratitude, and each evening it was allowed to rest with equal care. These gentle customs carried no urgency. They reminded families that ordinary moments possess their own sacred rhythm. In tending the fire, people believed they were also tending harmony, kindness, and the invisible thread that joined every member of the home together. Before meals, it was customary for a small offering to be made to Hestia. A few drops of wine, fragrant oil, or simple grains could be placed before the fire without elaborate ceremony. The offering was modest because Hestia herself represented quiet sufficiency rather than grandeur. These peaceful acts framed each meal with gratitude and balance. The family gathered not only to eat, but also to remember that warmth, shelter, and companionship were gifts, deserving calm acknowledgement before conversation and daily concerns gently resumed. Ancient writers remembered that Hestia often received the first and last portion of many sacrifices. This custom reflected her special place among the Olympians. By beginning and ending with Hestia, every sacred act was gently enclosed within the peaceful order she represented. Her role was not dramatic or triumphant. Instead, she quietly blessed the spaces between beginnings and endings. The rhythm itself became meaningful, encouraging patience and steadiness rather than haste, allowing every ceremony to unfold with quiet completeness. Every home possessed its own center, and in many Greek households that center was the hearth. Children grew beside its warmth, travelers returned to its light, and elders rested near its gentle glow. Rituals devoted to Hestia rarely separated the sacred from ordinary life. Instead, they suggested that sweeping a floor, preparing bread, or welcoming a guest could all become peaceful expressions of reverence when performed with care. The divine quietly lived alongside everyday routine without demanding attention through spectacle. New households also acknowledged Hestia in meaningful ways. When families established a home, the hearth symbolized stability and continuity. In some traditions, a flame carried from an existing hearth connected the new dwelling to the old, preserving memory through living fire. This gentle transfer reflected more than practical necessity. It expressed the hope that peace, hospitality, and mutual care would accompany those beginning a new chapter together. The quiet flame became a visible reminder that home could grow while remaining rooted in enduring traditions. Hospitality occupied an honored place in Greek life, and Hestia's quiet influence could be felt whenever strangers crossed a threshold in peace. Guests who entered a home approached the warmth of the hearth before becoming part of the household for a time. The fire represented safety rather than possession. It welcomed without demanding anything in return. In this gentle atmosphere, conversation unfolded more slowly. Meals became shared experiences, and trust was allowed to develop with the same patient steadiness as the glowing embers. The sacred fire of a city also reflected Hestia's presence. Within the Prytanean, the civic hearth burned as a symbol of the community itself. Although many citizens lived separate lives, this shared flame quietly represented their common identity. Public rituals surrounding it emphasized continuity rather than conquest. As generations changed, the enduring fire suggested that the city's spirit could remain constant, supported not by noise or celebration alone, but by faithful care maintained day after day across many years. Colonists establishing distant settlements sometimes carried fire from their parent city's sacred hearth. This careful tradition symbolized continuity across land and sea. The flame connected unfamiliar places to remembered homes without erasing the uniqueness of either. Hestia's presence quietly accompanied journeys that might otherwise have felt uncertain. Rather than emphasizing conquest or expansion, the ritual expressed the hope that familiar harmony could take root, wherever people patiently built new communities together around a shared center of warmth. Unlike temples dedicated to more dramatic gods, devotion to Hestia often unfolded in spaces that felt intimate and familiar. The quiet glow of the hearth required no grand procession to reveal its meaning. Silence itself became part of the ritual. The crackling fire, the steady warmth, and the simple routines of daily living formed a peaceful rhythm. In honoring Hestia, people discovered that constancy could possess a quiet beauty all its own, needing neither spectacle nor praise. The offerings made to Hestia were frequently uncomplicated, reflecting her gentle character. Bread, wine, oil, or fragrant incense could express respect without excess. Ancient tradition suggested that sincerity mattered more than display. These modest gifts acknowledged the quiet blessings already present within the household. They encouraged gratitude instead of ambition and contentment instead of endless desire. Through simple rituals, families practiced remembering that lasting comfort often grows from ordinary acts repeated faithfully over many peaceful seasons. Festivals dedicated to many Olympians filled cities with music, contests, or lively gatherings. Hestia's devotion stood apart through its steady presence rather than occasional celebration. Every ordinary day offered another opportunity to honor her. This quiet consistency reflected her nature more deeply than any single festival could. Her influence was woven gently into the passing hours, reminding people that sacredness could remain close at hand, patiently accompanying familiar routines from sunrise until the final glow of evening. Poets and philosophers sometimes viewed Hestia as the calm center around which movement naturally unfolded. While others journeyed, argued, or transformed, she remained peacefully constant. Rituals dedicated to her echoed this symbolism by emphasizing stability over change. The unwavering flame suggested that stillness possessed its own quiet strength. It offered reassurance without words, inviting those nearby to rest within an atmosphere shaped by patience, moderation, and enduring balance rather than restless motion. Even after the meal ended and conversation faded, the hearth often remained softly illuminated. Its lingering warmth accompanied the household into restful evening. In that gentle light, the day's work gradually settled into memory. Devotion to Hestia did not demand extraordinary effort before sleep. Instead, it quietly affirmed that peace could arise through careful habits, respectful attention, and gratitude for shelter. The final glow of the fire became a calm companion as night slowly embraced the home. The rituals devoted to Hestia reveal a form of worship grounded in constancy rather than grandeur. A simple flame, tended with quiet care, became a symbol of belonging, generosity, and enduring peace. Across generations, these customs gently linked families, cities, and distant settlements through shared acts of remembrance. Hestia asked for no victories and sought no applause. Her sacred presence rested within warmth itself, inviting every peaceful home to become a place where harmony could quietly continue from one day to the next. Long after the great struggles of the Olympians faded into memory, Hestia remained a quiet presence in every peaceful household. She did not seek grand temples towering above cities, because her true sanctuary was the simple hearth where warmth gathered family and friends. Every shared meal, every gentle welcome offered to a traveler, and every calm evening beside the fire reflected the values she quietly protected. While other gods inspired dramatic tales of victory and conflict, Hestia's influence endured through ordinary acts of kindness. Her legacy lived not in loud celebration, but in the steady comfort that made daily life feel safe and complete. In ancient Greek cities, every public hearth reminded the community that they belonged together. The sacred flame was more than a practical fire. It symbolized unity, continuity, and shared responsibility among neighbors. Magistrates, guests, and citizens recognized its quiet importance during ceremonies that marked both ordinary days and important occasions. Hestia's unseen presence encouraged harmony without demanding attention. Her gift was stability, allowing communities to grow with confidence that the familiar warmth of home could always be found again after journeys, celebrations, or times of uncertainty. When Greek families established a new home, they often carried fire from an existing hearth to begin another. This simple tradition linked generations through a continuous flame that represented memory and belonging. The fire became a gentle reminder that every household formed part of a larger story reaching into the past. Hestia's blessing traveled with that flame, offering quiet reassurance rather than dramatic miracles. Through this enduring custom, the goddess became closely connected with the peaceful rhythm of family life across the Greek world. Greek colonies founded across distant shores also honored Hestia. Before settlers began building homes or marketplaces, the sacred fire often traveled from the mother city to the new settlement. In this way, the flame symbolized an unbroken connection between old beginnings and new horizons. Even across wide seas, the gentle presence of the goddess reminded people that home, was not only a place, but also a tradition carried in memory, respect, and shared customs. Her influence quietly crossed mountains and oceans without the need for conquest. Unlike many Olympians, Hestia rarely appeared in dramatic myths or artistic adventures. Yet this quiet absence became part of her lasting identity. She represented the enduring things that people often overlook because they are always present. Warmth, peace, hospitality, and trust seldom demand attention until they are missing. Ancient storytellers understood that her calm nature reflected the dependable foundations supporting every family and community. Without seeking glory, she became one of the most constant figures in Greek religious life. Hospitality held deep importance throughout the Greek world, and Hestia's influence quietly supported this tradition. Welcoming strangers with respect strengthened friendships between families and cities alike. A guest invited beside the hearth entered a place protected by sacred custom, where kindness and courtesy created lasting bonds. The warmth of the fire reflected generosity rather than wealth, reminding hosts that simple comfort could become a meaningful gift. Through these gentle rituals, Hestia encouraged trust that extended far beyond the walls of any single home. As centuries passed, poets and philosophers continued to recognize Hestia as a symbol of balance and inner peace. They understood that harmony begins not with power, but with steadiness. The calm fire at the center of a home mirrored the calm spirit that allows thoughtful choices and peaceful relationships to flourish. Even when political fortunes shifted or kingdoms rose and fell, the image of the hearth remained familiar. Its quiet flame suggested that true strength often appears in patient endurance rather than dramatic action. The Romans honored a closely related goddess named Vesta, whose sacred flame also represented the life of the community. Although Greek and Roman traditions developed in their own ways, both preserved the idea that a carefully tended fire reflected continuity and shared responsibility. Across generations, these beliefs demonstrated how deeply people valued the peaceful center of domestic life. The quiet devotion offered to Hestia and Vesta showed that lasting traditions often rest upon gentle symbols instead of heroic displays. Today, Hestia remains one of the gentlest figures remembered from Greek mythology. Readers often discover that her quiet nature feels surprisingly familiar. Modern homes may no longer gather around wood-burning hearths, yet the desire for warmth, welcome, and peaceful belonging continues unchanged. Her ancient story speaks softly across time, reminding people that comfort can be created through ordinary moments shared with care. The enduring simplicity of her character allows her memory to remain calm and inviting even after thousands of years. Artists often portrayed Hestia wearing modest robes and carrying few elaborate symbols. This restrained appearance reflected her character more faithfully than splendid armor or glittering weapons ever could. She needed no dramatic display to express divine dignity. Instead, serenity itself became her defining attribute. In paintings, sculptures, and poetry, her composed presence offered a gentle contrast to the excitement surrounding many other Olympians. Through quiet simplicity, she reminded observers that peace possesses its own enduring beauty. The hearth also represented continuity through changing seasons. Winters passed, harvests returned, children grew into adults, and elders shared their memories beside the familiar fire. Hestia symbolized these steady cycles without rushing them. Her presence suggested that meaningful lives are often built through countless small moments rather than extraordinary events. The daily tending of the flame reflected patient care, reminding ancient families that constancy could become a sacred practice worthy of quiet respect. Because Hestia stepped aside peacefully to preserve harmony among the Olympians, Later generations remembered her as a goddess of contentment rather than ambition. Her willingness to remain at the peaceful center instead of pursuing greater prominence became one of her defining qualities. In mythology, this quiet choice carried lasting meaning. It showed that dignity can exist without rivalry, and that stability may be more valuable than constant competition. Such lessons blended naturally with the gentle atmosphere surrounding her sacred fire. The image of a steady flame has endured across many cultures as a symbol of remembrance, welcome, and hope. Although these traditions developed independently over time, Hestia's ancient hearth remains one of history's earliest expressions of these enduring ideas. Her mythology reminds us that a small light, carefully protected, can represent continuity across generations. Without loud proclamations or heroic triumphs, her sacred fire quietly became one of the most enduring symbols in the ancient Mediterranean world. As the quiet story of Hestia comes gently to rest, her lasting legacy remains wonderfully simple. She asks for no monuments beyond the warmth people create together, no victories beyond peaceful coexistence, and no praise beyond thoughtful gratitude. The sacred hearth continues to glow in memory as a symbol of calm, generosity, and enduring harmony. In the stillness surrounding her gentle flame, the ancient world offers one final reminder that the strongest foundations are often the quietest, patiently supporting countless lives through every passing generation.